Howdy folks, Kevin here. Got another WebdriverIO video for you. This time I'm going to cover how to use version 4. Why would you want to use version 4 when version 5 is out? 5.3.3, we're already up to version, minor version number 3 of WebdriverIO version 5. If that makes any sense. So anyway, why would you want to use version 4? Well, one big reason that you would have is if you're like me, you might have a full course on version 4 that you want people to find value out of because they paid you for it, and you haven't quite got around the time to update your videos to the latest version 5, which does include quite a few breaking changes that wouldn't work in your videos. So you want to let your viewers and students know how they can still get value out of those videos using version 4 and then upgrade to version 5 later on. And then when the new videos are made, they're able to take a look at it. Anyway, so that's one reason. Probably not the reason why you would want to use version 4. You might want to use version 4 if you have your own training materials for the company you're at and you need to show people how to install it, or you're just waiting to make the upgrade yourself and you just need to stick with version 4. So anyway, how do we do this? Well, it's actually pretty darn simple. There's one extra tiny little step that you need to do in order to use version 4. So I'm going to jump into my terminal and I've got a project here, brand new project, nothing in it. I'm going to initialize my package.json so that I can mark this as a node project. So that just creates a package.json file that's going to store all my dependencies in it so that in case I need to reinstall this entire project, I can pretty easily. Then I'm going to run my npm install command for WebdriverIO, but I'm going to add an @ and the number 4 at the end. And what this is going to do, it's going to say don't get the latest version of WebdriverIO, get the version the most recent version of 4, of the 4 major version. This comes down to semantic versioning. There's 3 different numbers in semantic versioning. You see, you've got your major, your minor, and your patch. So major is very huge changes that break everything. Version 5 of WebdriverIO definitely qualifies for a major version. Minor is when you have maybe you're adding new functionality in, but it's still going to work as before. And then patch is just like you're fixing a bug here or there. WebdriverIO got all the way up to 4.14.2, I believe, before upgrading to version 5. So they had 12 minor versions and a number of patch versions in version 4, and they're already at 5.3.3. So they've added some functionality, fixed a few bugs here and there. So what that @4 does, it says grab the latest version that matches that 4 as the major version. So if I go into my package.json, you see it's installed 4.14.2, which was the latest version of 4 that was released. I could be more specific in this and say @4.whatever, 4.12.1, assuming that's a number, and it would install that specific one, but you can be less specific and it'll just grab the latest. With that installed, you can run your WebdriverIO config as normal. And this is going to go through the normal configuration, and so I'll start going through that. Here it asks me, should I install the framework adapter for me? And I'm going to say yes. And I was a little concerned when starting to put this video together that you would have to go back and make sure that you are using an older version of that framework adapter, because they released brand new versions of all these framework adapters and reporters and everything. And those may not work with version 4. They might only work with version 5. I'm guessing that that's probably the case. But what happened, let me just go through this config and I'll explain why that works in just a second. And the same thing for the reporter and the services as well, that I was concerned that you were going to have to specify the version numbers for all of them and have to look that all up, and that was going to be a mess. But that's actually not the case. So I'm going to open up my package.json file again. And you see here, I've got my Mocha framework number at 0.6.4, my Selenium standalone at .12, and my spec reporter at .15. And these are all the version 4 numbers. These haven't been updated to version 5. So it correctly installed all the previous versions. Why did it do that? Why didn't it try to install version 5? Well, it had nothing to do with the configuration creator knowing that we wanted version 4. It actually had to do with a smart little change they made with how they package everything. When they made this update, one thing that they did is they packaged all the official packages, all the official modules into a @WDIO organization. So now if you wanted to install the new Mocha framework, you would do @WebdriverIO/Mocha framework. So this is actually a brand new module that it looks much the same, it functions much the same, but it's actually completely different. So this old Mocha framework, if I open this in my NPM.js viewer, I look at the versions, you see there were some beta versions, but the latest is 6.4, which is for version 4. It's not the 5.0. Everything for 5.0 is going to be inside of this new WebdriverIO organization. If I go there, you can see it's all in here. And if I jump down to the Mocha framework right there and go to the versions, you see here are all those new 5.0 versions, and there aren't any before that. So they're basically two different packages, and that's why when you go to install the old one, it doesn't it goes to that old package that it's basically deprecated, and it's just going to sit there until it doesn't need to sit there anymore and they can just delete it. The new one, the new installer, is going to go after this @WDIO/Mocha framework package and not worry about the old one. So that's really cool. It means that we can still use version 4 very easily. All we have to do is add that @4 and it works as normal. I'm not going to write a test to really prove this out. You're just going to take my word for it or try it out yourself, but I did want to kind of explain what's going on there. Okay, so we've got we've got the old version installed, but we're stuck with the new website. How do we get to the old guide and the old API and everything? All this API stuff is for the new version. It isn't going to work on your old version. Some things may be out of date or up to date to where your old version is out of date and things like that. Thankfully, the folks at WebdriverIO have hosted a previous version of their site. That's v4.webdriver.io. And this is just the exact same site as before in WebdriverIO version 4. And it has the old developer guide and it has the old API. So all that information is there for you to use for until you upgrade to version 5. Yeah, that's it. v4.webdriver.io is the new API site that covers the old API information. That's basically all I wanted to cover. There is one more thing I wanted to say, which is while most of the packages are in this new @WebdriverIO organization, some of them, like the Chrome driver service, aren't. So this is a third-party. I call it third-party. It's outside of the official WebdriverIO organization and the repo. It's built and maintained by somebody outside of that. So they may not follow that update if they release a new update for this service and it works in version 5, no longer works in version 4, and they may not follow the correct semantic versioning. You may end up getting that update when you do the install because it's just going to grab the latest version of whatever this service is. So in order to get around that, say you have it installed, you could just copy this and then come back to your terminal and then do your npm install. I think I have it here. Yes, there it is. I'm going to install this specific version. And one thing to note when you install this is by default, NPM is going to include a caret sign in the dependency information. And that caret sign says, get the latest version that is a match of here. If I go into this package.json information, it will talk about this caret version compatible with the version. So it's not an exact match. It's something that has a compatible match. So if I go down to the caret ranges, they talk about allow changes that do not modify the leftmost non-zero digit. So with your caret, it's going to allow for patch and minor updates to versions 1.0 and above. But a lot of these packages, if we go back, aren't above 1.0. You see this is below 1.0. This is definitely below 1.0. This is below 1.0. Our release here is below 1.0. So even if they did a, I might be wrong about this. I was going to say even if they made a major update, I don't think that's the case. I think if they make the major update, if they go from 0. whatever to 1. whatever, it's not going to take that in. It's not going to upgrade to that version. So I could be wrong about that. But overall, when the new release comes out, if it's 0.2. whatever, it could pull that package down when you run the install, and that would be bad. So what you'll probably want to do is after installing, just delete that caret from your package.json. You can also, when you run your install, I think you can do like save exact, and I believe that's going to not use that caret. So if I jump back in here, you see it did not use that caret. So I guessed right, which is great. If you use save exact, it's going to use that. So probably do save exact when you do your install. Okay, for more on this, I do have a blog post on it if you are interested. It basically covers everything that I just talked about in here. I'll have links to everything down below in the description. And thanks for watching. And until next time, have fun testing.